So now, after everything that's happened, I have more questions than answers. Doesn't matter what the autopsy says. They can say this is how she died, this is what she died from, but they can't fill in the gaps and answer all those other questions of how it got to that point, who delivered it to her. How are they going to find that out? Is anybody going to be able to figure that out? Me? Them? Probably not. I already have a good idea of who it was. I believe that it was her cousin. I believe that it was her cousin because 2 days after she passed away, he lived in my apartment complex and moved out a week later. But he told a mutual neighbor that I talked to, right? This old lady who's always outside smoking cigars and walking her chihuahua. He told her 2 days after Sarah passed away that the day that Sarah was MIA and not answering anybody's calls or texts or responding, that he said he left his cell phone at his house intentionally when he went to check on her so that GPS couldn't track his cell phone to the hotel. That's pretty suspect. Pretty suspicious, right? The guy said he left his cell phone at the house so that GPS couldn't track him to the hotel that day. Nobody knew anything was definitively wrong with Sarah at that point. So why would he be thinking about his cell phone tracking him to a hotel when nobody knew for sure anything was really wrong with her at that point? I pretty much knew in my gut something was wrong because we had plans and something felt really wrong just in my spirit, but I didn't even know. But yet he said, oh, yeah, I left my cell phone at the house that day and told the neighbor that. Left his cell phone at the house so that GPS wouldn't track him? Why the hell is he worried about GPS tracking him? Unless he knew something, unless he had something to do with it, unless he probably gave her drugs, that he at that point was like sketched out like, oh damn, maybe the drugs that he gave her killed her. And guess what? Phoenix PD ain't going to do shit about it. How do I know this? Because I have called that investigator 4 or 5 times and she has not responded. It's been 2 months that Sarah's been dead, 9 weeks. I have still not received a call back. And I'll bet you that shady ass cousin, by the way, just a little background story, she didn't even know that cousin because she was staying with another cousin here in Phoenix. She's from Norway. Came out here for a wedding, was staying with that cousin for a couple weeks in the North Valley, and then was going to extend her trip, and then talking to her mom was like, oh, or it was her mom or dad or somebody, I don't know exactly, that said, oh, by the way, you have another cousin out there that you've never met, and he lives out there, and maybe you could stay with him for a couple weeks, so that way you don't have to spend money on a hotel. So the cousin she was staying with when I met her, that cousin, they only knew each other for a couple weeks. And I can tell you, when that dude found out the news and I talked to him a couple days after she passed, he couldn't even look me in the eye. I was having a 20-minute conversation with him. He maybe looked me in the eye 3 or 4 times. He was sitting on his doorstep and he was messing with like the rocks and the pebbles on his doormat. He couldn't even look me in the eye. That dude didn't give a damn. His conscience was guilty of sin. Guilty. I know it in my heart. So if anybody was responsible, it was probably him. Do I know that for a fact? Do I have proof? No, I don't. But Phoenix police should be questioning him and asking him, well, why did you tell a neighbor that you left your cell phone at the house that day when Sarah was non-responsive to anyone's calls or texts? Why did you say you left your cell phone at your house? Because you didn't want GPS to track your cell phone. Why were you concerned about that? Why would you be worried about GPS tracking you if you're not guilty of anything, if you didn't do anything wrong? That's the question that Phoenix PD should be asking him. And that dude is a weird mother. That dude, straight up, that dude had a dead cat in his freezer. He told me, and the neighbor told me, he had a dead cat in his freezer for 5 months because he didn't want to bury the cat here in Arizona. He wanted to bury the cat in Colorado, where he's from. Who do you know keeps a dead cat in their freezer for 5 months? Is that normal? Does that sound normal to you, to anybody? Hello? Dude, this whole situation stinks, and Phoenix PD isn't going to do shit about it. Been calling them, been 9 weeks, haven't gotten one call back from the investigator. And the woman I love is dead, and no one's doing shit about it. Her death is being labeled accidental, cause fentanyl. Well, regardless of whether that is true, obviously they found fentanyl in her body. Are they going to do an investigation to find out how that happened? Fucking investigate me. Investigate the hotel. Investigate him. Investigate everybody. Investigate everybody. That's what an investigation is. You investigate everybody. But are they going to do it? Probably not. I refuse to let Sarah die with no justice for her. And maybe there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to just have to let it go. But I don't know. Something needs to happen here. Something. And most of you don't understand where I'm coming from, and that's okay. Because you didn't have a woman that you loved that died in some weird situation, and it was total cover-up, and then the hotel wouldn't do the welfare check, and then the police after the fact wouldn't check camera footage, not going to do an investigation. Now they're labeling, no foul play, accidental, no foul play. How many times have you heard the cops say that somebody's death was no foul play, accidental? But then actually it comes out that there was actually foul play. There was something shady. Somebody did. Regardless, it doesn't, whether they say there was no evidence of foul play, okay, all right, there's no evidence. No evidence of foul play. Okay, all right, there's no evidence. All right, we'll get the evidence. Put that dude on a polygraph. Put me on the polygraph. Put the management on polygraph. Do something. The fact remains is that she's dead. Whoever gave her the fentanyl needs to be held accountable. Whether or not she was willing or not, we'll probably never know the answer, or whether or not she knew what she was taking or not. But it doesn't matter. There's laws in place for that. Somebody gives somebody a drug and that person dies from it, they need to be held accountable. Period.